Welcome back to the Budding Author Podcast with me, Simon Ward, your host, author of the Awakening series as well. Today, we're talking to a sci-fi guy who is going to tell us all about the Mirror Wars saga. Hi, Alan. How you doing?
Hello. Hi, fine, thank you.
It's
Bit warm,
good to have you on.
bad.
The Star Wars as the franchise, they're extending it beyond extreme, aren't they? And
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on that?
Um. Well, some of the stuff they've done has been okay. Um. But I think I'm getting the. I feel that they're oversaturating the market a bit. I think with trying to get as much stuff out there as they can. I mean,
Yeah, it's like done to death, isn't it?
the last series, the Acolyte. It was okay, but wasn't what you would call grip. That would something that would grab you.
Yeah,
But I think the series of about Obi-Wan Kenobi I think was quite well done. But
yeah.
some of the animated stuff that they've done, the Bad Batch especially, has been very good. So
Yeah.
the animated stuff has been very good.
I think quite often we get that with writers and with movies. If something hits well, they just keep going with it, don't they? And sort of do it to death, as it were. You're a lover of sci-fi, Star Wars, Star Trek, and a Whovian, Doctor Who fan, of course.
Yeah, yeah, I am. Yeah,
So is
much
that
to my
something
wife's disgust.
that is quite often the case, isn't it? Have you ever been to a Comic-Con?
Yes, I've actually been to about four. Never, not the ones over in America, but
No.
over. The first two I went to was when I was still living over in England. I went to a couple in Newcastle back in probably 98 and 99.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I went to a couple of sort of first when I moved over Northern Ireland. There was a few on. I think the last one I went to was about 2016.
yeah,
Me and my brother-in-law went because he's a huge movie buff sci-fi fan as well. Even though he
yeah.
doesn't like to admit it, he just wanted to tag along with me just that for a nosy. But he quite enjoyed it.
Well, I've got two questions concerning that. Did you dress up?
Not quite. I've got another America Captain America leather jacket where with like a with a it's a proper leather jacket, but it's in the style of Captain America's stars and stripes suit and everything. So I wore
Yeah. So
that.
you went halfway there. And your
Yeah.
brother, is he a champion of your writing, a big champion?
Yeah, I have a twin brother, and yeah, he's one of my biggest critics as well. If he tells me what's if I'm writing a chapter, I send it to him, and he'll read it, and he'll usually say, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that." And then I always like to judge his opinion. If he doesn't like it, or if something he feels that he thinks you'll upset people like that, I said, "Oh no, well,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do."
Well, that's
But he's a sci-fi fan as well, so
it's nice to have somebody so close that sort of loves your genre and can give you that kind
yeah,
of strong feedback. Because feedback is important, isn't it? As a writer, we can sort of get a little
yeah,
bit insular and just write our stuff and think that everything's fine. It's only when other people read it that you sort of get that
yeah.
feedback. And quite often,
I don't mind criticism so long as it's constructive, and even if it's negative, at least I know where I've gone wrong. I mean, for me, for case of my first book, Double Jeopardy, I wrote it and I released it, and then a few readers contacted me to let me know certain things that didn't work.
yeah,
The first chapter.
structure wise, yeah,
Yeah, the first chapter I was advised wasn't strong enough. So what I ended up doing, I actually was writing. I would give me second book at the time, and I wrote for a chapter that I realised after I wrote it, that should have gone into Double Jeopardy. So what I ended up doing, transferring it into the first chapter, replacing the chapter I had, and it ended up making it a lot stronger and a lot more. I got a lot more feedback from people saying how much they love that first chapter now, so, from what it is. So yeah,
as a
criticism does help.
As a self-published author, you've got the option to correct things, haven't you? If you've gone through a traditional publishing route and the editors haven't picked it up, then you're kind of stuck, really. But as a self-published writer, I made changes on mine as well. Had some feedback and sort of tightened things up a little bit. I'd gone too heavy on the sex side of things, so I toned it down. It's still
I did as well.
It's still an adult read. It's still an adult read, but it's easy to get carried away, isn't it, Alan? When our characters take
I wouldn't say it was. There was a scene in Double Jeopardy where it was a bit on the steamy side, and I just wrote it, and I gave a signed copy to my mum and to my aunt. My mum didn't read it, but my aunt contacted me to say how shocked she was and things like that. And so because of her, I had to tone that chapter down just to make, because she kept saying that she was disgusted. And so I said, okay, I'll tone it down just for you.
But I had a great chat with Jen McLeod, and she said quite often it's the audience. So it's picking your audience, isn't it? Like some people would probably have loved that level of detail, but for a wider audience, maybe sort of toning it down is important. I think with me, I tone things down, but it's still a steamy adult read. But it's sort of character driven and some excitement and sci-fi elements in there. I love sci-fi as well. I won't say I'm a Star Wars, Star Trek, or Doctor Who fan, but future technologies, the likes of iRobot, Isaac Asimov, and the Terminator films, and that sort of future technologies and that sort of stuff. That's what sort of grabs me. So how does the Mirror Wars saga draw parallels with Star Wars, and how is it different?
Well, it doesn't exactly draw parallels with Star Wars. It draws parallels with Star Trek. In particular, it was the episode from the original series, Mirror Mirror. When I first watched that when I was very young, I was so infused by the idea of parallel realities, parallel worlds, that there was another reality where there was another version of us doing something different, something like that. That was always in the back of my mind ever since, and I'd always wanted to. That I just love the idea of parallel worlds, and then as well, that then sort of I had that back in my head burning away for years. And then the other thing that helped inspire me was growing up as a child, I had a fear of mirrors. So
you had fear of mirrors?
It was just.
Does that stem from having a twin?
And as well as that's another thing that I helped incorporate was the twin element, because growing up we ended it.
Is your twin an identical twin?
Yes, yeah. And you always, whenever you and Daddy got twins, you always get up to mischief and that. So it's one of those things. So
do you switch roles and that sort of stuff?
Yeah. Well, yes. I'll tell you a story. What happened once when we were very young. We were both in hospital. We had to go into hospital for 2 different operations. And you know those wristbands that you have on when they get going. Well, you're not supposed to take them off, but me and David, my twin brother, swapped them over, and the nurse staff didn't know. And it wasn't until they took us down to theatre and I think it was David they put under first. My mum just happened to come into the ward at that time, and she looked at the bed, saw me sitting there, and she said to the nurse, "Where's David at?" And the nurse said, "Oh, that's David there." "No, it's not." This wouldn't believe.
What
So
is it possible? You say you went in for different reasons. How different were the
yeah.
reasons? Can you tell us? Or you,
Well, David, he was to have something done with his eyes. He was to have his eye taken out on reset. I think it was something to do with correcting or something, where
yeah,
I had something completely different. And so they were just, the nurse had to race down to the theatre to stop them. They were just actually putting them under when they found out.
so
And
you
so
nearly had your eye taken out for you.
yeah, and so but I think if you imagine what happening nowadays, there would be all sorts of eruptions going on, people getting sued and everything. So, but
Well,
yeah,
let me tell you a funny story of my visit to a hospital. Um, I had a ruptured ACL, so I needed an ACL operation. And while I was waiting to go in the operation, they came in with a marker pen and put an arrow to say which knee it was. It's like that sort of made me sort of lose a little bit of confidence. But after the operation, I was okay after the operation. Just my bum was sore. so, so I don't know what went on while I was out, or whether that's a normal part of the procedure. But that's that
probably
was
from jerking you around or pulling you around off the table and things like that. Probably.
well. I'm hoping it was just that and nothing else. So when in your writing process, Alan, do you plot it all out first, or you just sort of run with it as a pantser?
Yeah, well, to be honest, double when I first wrote Double Jeopardy, I was still getting used to I had no idea what I was doing. I had to. I think one of the reasons was because it was also during COVID, so it was very difficult to get information, to get requests to go and get information and things like that. Only thing I had to rely on was YouTube.
Yeah,
At the time, I didn't even know there was a huge community on social media for sort of like office like this. So I wasn't aware of that. So
yeah,
I had to do my own research. So I had the beginning in my head and the ending in my head, but everything else in the middle, I just sort of went winged it and just
yeah,
let it go. But then when I started writing my second book, I had the whole thing plotted out
yeah.
from start to finish.
I've followed a similar route, and I think many authors do when they start off as a pantser, and then as they write a few more books, they start to get more structure and
Yeah.
plotting to what they do. And I think that's a good way to go. Stephen King, of course, is a pantser all the way, and will never change. So
I
he
have,
just
I
grabs
have
a
to be
character and
honest.
then runs with it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I have to be honest. From my third book in my series that I'm currently on writing, I'm probably I'm being a bit of a panther. I'm just letting the story go on to see how it develops. It's actually changed from how I wanted to go, which I think at the moment it's actually better than how I actually envisioned it going. So
Yeah,
that's so
the characters take
yeah,
over, don't they? Um,
yeah. It's those
you
pesky characters
mentioned
that have minds of their own.
you mentioned on YouTube some excellent ideas and excellent advice. Obviously, the Budding Author podcast sort of contributes to that, but there are a lot of channels to get writing advice on YouTube, and
Yeah, I found that out when I first started, and then there's other websites as well that I came across that I never realised until after I released it. Like Readsy
Reads
for
is very good. I use
yeah,
Reads.
yeah, yeah. I didn't for the first book. For my second book, I did rely on that as to search for an editor. That found was quite helpful.
Yeah,
And the writing community on Twitter X at the time I didn't know existed. I'd been on Twitter for since 2011, and at the time I didn't even know there was a huge community for writers on there
yeah,
until after I released my first book. I came across that about 6 months after I released it, and it was such the writing, the author community is such a wonderful community because we all help each other.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful, I think.
Yeah, well, that's like say similar to this channel, really, sort of giving
Yeah.
authors like yourself a show effectively. Say editing wise, you actually paid for an editor?
I did, yes. I thought I knew I knew I had to get somebody who would be objective. If I'm
Yeah,
I thought, because when I was trying when I was doing double editing myself, I realized I couldn't be objective, so I had to get an editor to see if there was, just so I could see what advice they could give us, and just to help me tidy it up, which was. But I think, if I'm being honest, for my
that was more
first book,
developmental editing then, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, for my first book, I think I did get the wrong type of editor, which probably it just didn't work for us. Wasn't
Yeah,
until my
they're not all
second
the
book,
same, obviously. Yeah, they're not
yeah,
all the same.
yeah,
And getting
because
them on
at the time,
recommendation, I
yeah,
think.
at the time I didn't know, because I wasn't aware of Razy, so I just Googled editors and pulled up the first one, which I think is a big mistake. Was a big
Yeah,
mistake on my part. For one thing,
I think for editors, you need to get a referral from
yeah,
somebody who's writing a similar genre, I think.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, she was American as well, so there was I think the language barrier, not the language barrier, but yeah, there was that clash of
The
different
spellings and stuff.
styles, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But we second editor I got, she was a lot more helpful and was able to offer more advice. And well, we butted heads over a few times over certain things that I wanted in, she disagreed. But that's the whole idea. It's you both there are times when you won't both agree, and you have to look back and think about carefully what she said. So it's one of those
yeah.
things you have to.
But it's funny. I spoke with Brian Simpson, and his editor, or his beta reader, is his wife, and he was saying how they butt heads with each other and disagree with each other, and eventually he does sort of give up, and but it's important. It's important to have that fight, or they'll question everything. Was what he was saying.
Yeah,
So
yeah, because if you agree to everything they say, then you have, there has to come a point when you're going to have to fight for what you believe should be in. Because a lot of I like to, when I'm writing, I always like to include humorous elements just to lighten the mood a bit. When the editor was arguing against it, she said, "You don't, you cannot have that. It doesn't work there." But I was adamant I wanted it. Probably one of the funniest things I have to say about that I had an argument with her about was a scene where I wrote it from the point of view of the character's dog.
Yeah. From the character's dog. Okay.
Yeah. She basically it's it's I wanted it because I was trying to get the heartstrings going for everybody to get it to just for, and the editor, you can't write that. You lose all the dog lovers. So I was adamant I wanted it. She goes, oh yeah, but because if the dog, basically the dog's dying, and all she wants to be is be next to her master, who's lying next to her unconscious, and she's stepping away, and it's her from her point of view that way. And she was saying, oh, but there's an unwritten rule in authors that you should never kill the dog. And I said, oh well, just this once, and let's break the rule. So.
Well, I think that they say that about like you should never harm children, you should never harm pets and that sort of thing. But I think it's all in the story, isn't it? I think I've broken one of those, but in Awoken, my final book, Awoken in 46, it's got to make sense. It can't be just gratuitous. Oh, let's just kill. let's just kill a child or kill a baby or kill a dog or something. It's got to be part of the story and make sense. It's not for clicks. It's for the depth of the story.
No, yeah, that's what I was doing it for, because I wanted to write it from the dog's perspective to see how, to understand forever idea why. Because when Dave wakes up and sees Jenny lying on his chest, he he wanted to understand his grief. That's why I
Yeah.
wrote it as well. And the
Illuminate
other things
right
that
tearjerker by the sound of it.
well, I recently was at a reading at a library, and one of the readers who said she'd read it, apparently it broke her heart. She said she was crying that much she had to go away and make a cup of tea. And the same with me. I recently got turned Oracle Vision into an audiobook, and it upset me narrator so much she had to go away and calm herself down to make herself a cup of tea. So like I said, it was just so emotional for her to read it, because I think she said she had a dog as well.
The to get that kind of reaction from people is excellent.
Yeah.
The whether it'll encourage them to read another book when it's made them cry and upset them. But I mean, sometimes people need to read to help them bring out emotions that they've got for other things. I'm sort of similar at sort of times when I've been at a low ebb. I can, if I'm reading a book or watching a film, the slightest thing can sort of take me over the edge because of how I'm feeling, and it helps to get that emotion out. So I think that's a medium for helping to deliver.
Yeah, and I think I don't know whether it's me, but as I've gotten older, certain films just if it's an emotional film, I just cry my eyes out.
Yeah, but it depends. It depends on how you're feeling. Like if you're not feeling 100%, then the emotion will come out. And yeah, I've had periods in my life where that's happened, and not at times when you would have expected it really. But I think we've all been there,
yeah.
Alan.
Yeah, because I always used to take fun of make fun of my dad when, I mean, a few years ago when E.T. first came out, we all went to the cinema to go and see it.
Oh, E.T.,
And
yeah.
yeah, we looked at we looked at there was this, that scene where E.T.'s dying and he's everybody's crying. I looked across at my dad and I could see tears streaming at my dad's eyes because and I always laughed at him. But now I'm at near his age. I'm at the same age as him now. I'm exactly the same. Any film like that just sets me off.
Yeah.
No matter how many times I watch it, especially see like films like Mr. Holland's Opus at the end where it's that emotional crescendo, it just hits me there each time, and
yeah,
it just it sets me off. Any film does, even something like A Dog's Purpose, something like that.
I think you should avoid The Green Mile. I think.
I love that film, and yeah, it's anything like that. My wife will sit right next to us and she's watching me and she looks at me and goes, "Oh, for God's sake, pull yourself together."
It's one of those. I think provoking an emotional response, be that it could be sort of like a sad, teary response, or a physical sort of response, sort of like a mental or a physical sort of benefit sort of thing, like exciting the readers in certain situations and then bringing them down and making them sad. It's that highs and lows that we take into our writing that sort of that gives it the depth, as you said before. You've got light and shade in the story. You can't have 100 mile an hour all the way. It needs to have a few lower moments.
I also like to pull the rug from under the reader as well.
Oh, we've got to have twists.
We've
got to have twists.
By adding a bit of, I like to break. I have a character who breaks the fourth wall, and he actually talks directly to the reader.
Okay.
And I double jeopardy, especially the antagonist who actually breaks the fourth wall and speaks to the reader by saying, after she's dealt with this universe, she's coming for you next. And she says it that way. I don't know how many times I've had comments from readers to say that part freaked them out so much at the end, where they open the last page and they find Orville speaking to them to say that she's coming for them. They just said it's an ending that they've never had before, and that's somebody. Where I think I had one reviewer, my first recent review, who said that is how you end a book, leaving the reader shell shocked.
Yeah, that's it. You've got to provoke a reaction. I mean, yeah, that's the essence, of it all, isn't it? Just before we conclude, pacing. Where are you on control of pacing? How do you control that?
If once I write it, if I go back over it and I find a certain couple of scenes are slowing it down, I have to take them out because I know it's slow. I mean, there was a scene where I wrote in our division that I thought was quite funny and would go in, but when I looked at it after my editor looked at it, she said it wouldn't work. It slows it down.
So anything, yeah.
If it doesn't work, if you have a scene that slows it down and it isn't going to work, you have to be objective and take it out. Otherwise, it'll probably end up making it.
Every scene needs to take the story forward. That's it. Yeah. Just before we finish, guilty pleasures. What's your guilty pleasure, Alan?
I would say, well, I enjoy reading, but my guilty pleasure is supporting Sunderland Football Club. That's my guilty pleasure.
Which team? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Sunderland Football Club.
Oh, Sunderland. Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. Well, my not so guilty pleasure is Walsall in League Two. That is my torture. I have another show. I have another show, Walsall Fan TV. I am the #1 fan channel for Walsall Football Club, and the joy and the pain is my my tagline.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the same for every football fan. There's always that pain, no matter what team you have, or
you've got to.
My mum, God rest her soul, she was a Sunderland she was a Sunderland football fan until she died. She died last year, and she always complained, "I'm not listening to them anymore." But the next week she'd be there listening to the matches on the radio as usual, texting me saying that bloody rubbish these lots of.
Well, I think that's it. Is that what you want from your reader? They'll go, "I'm not going to read any more of that." By the way, when's the next one out?
Yeah. I like to twist the knife a bit, so they don't say if they give them not what they expect. So they say, "Oh, I didn't see that coming," that type of thing.
Well, in my second novel, which is actually the one I released first, but it's the second in the series, Finding Love in 2045. I'd put a twist in there, but my devious mind I created a double twist. So people reading Finding Love in 2045 will enjoy that. So yeah, a double twist. That's the cheeky one, I suppose.
Yeah.
But with that one, I say emotional responses. The Finding Love in 2045 took me 4 years to write. The amount of rereads and that sort of stuff I'd gone through, but the last full read through I did, I had tears in my eyes for the character, not for the fact I was finishing it. It was tears in the eyes for the character, for what the emotional journey for the lead character Mia. You could say in some ways I fell in love with the character really, and
because I think, and then there are times when you're writing a chapter, that's so intense and emotional. You're so exhausted afterwards because you've put everything into it.
Yeah,
you put all your basically.
And that's what you should. That's what you should. Yeah. That's what we are giving our soul into our writing, and it needs to do that to make it engaging, I think. Alan, this has been a superb chat. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have too. Everybody who's been watching, everybody else that's been watching and listening, make sure you subscribe to the channel and catch all the excellent author interviews, tips and advice and that sort of stuff. Thanks for watching. Cheers.